Okay, ready?
Ready.
Yeah.
Ready.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Just Three Workplace Gurus. Amy.
I'm Amy. I thought you were supposed to say your mic first.
I thought we were supposed to go Amy, Mike, Vivienne. Did we decide not to do that?
I think we only did that because, oh no, last time I moderated. Yeah, I think you should say you because then it's like, it's you.
Makes more
start
sense.
with you since you're talking, I think.
Okay, then then we always have to talk about who's going to go next.
I'll go next.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Just Three Workplace Gurus. I'm Mike.
I'm Amy.
I'm Vivienne.
Glad to see you both.
Nice to see you too.
Today, we're going to talk about ergonomics, which is really Vivienne's thing.
Yay!
We all have a very strong interest and lots of opinions. So let's just dive in. I thought, Vivienne, maybe tell a little bit more of the story of how you got into ergonomics. We've talked about it, but I thought maybe that would be a good intro, and then I'll have a couple of questions for you.
Okay. How did I get into ergo? It was an accident. Literally. It was unexpected. Literally, it was an accident. Well, kind of literally. So rewind the tape, short version. I'm a trained concert pianist. And if you had told me back when I was studying that I have an ergonomics firm, I would have looked at you and said, what? Anyway, so I went to Juilliard, I went to Oberlin Conservatory, and my teachers, when I would complain that, hey, those technique exercises you gave me are hurting, I was met with, that's great. No pain, no gain. You're becoming a great pianist. And I was like, yes. Anyway, I got terribly injured. And there was a point where I couldn't hold a cup of coffee, sent to the clinic, here, take these painkillers, quit your day job, which was waiting tables because I was a musician, or I was doing temp work, I was typing. So it was kind of a disaster. And started getting involved in a really phenomenal methodology at the piano to help pianists play with more ease and more comfort and better technique. And lo and behold, my injury started subsiding. Moved to San Francisco, put out my shingle, hi, piano studio open, and half kids came to the studio and half adults came. And the adults were heard that I taught this methodology called the Taubman method. And they were doing great. And then I had a few I had a few students that were stuck. And I'd say, you're doing everything right at the piano. What? I don't know why your hands are still hurting. Oh, well, my day job is, I'm a paralegal. I'm a whatever. I'm a writer. Anyway, computer. It became very clear that there was a common thread. And so I started going to their offices saying, hey, let's give you a piano lesson at the computer. I was like, ow, why are you typing this way? Why are you sitting this way? Why is your chair up here and your computer over there? And I didn't even know at that point that there was a word called ergonomics. I just thought like, oh, this is like a silly thing to do. Like, let me correct you. So anyway, then I went to the library and discovered there's something called repetitive strain injury. And there's this field called ergonomics. And I was like, you're kidding me. And that's how this all started. And little by little, I just started knocking on doors because I have a big mouth. And I was like, hi, I can help you. Like, I'm a concert pianist. I know a thing or two about posture and fine finger movements. And every door slammed in my face because they were like, are you a doctor? No. Therapist? No. Nurse? No. And I'm a pianist. Until somebody let us in. And then it grew from there. So 20-something years later, it's been fascinating just to see not just helping so many people, and now having, PBE is probably 25 people big, and we help companies all over the world, and it grew into something I could never have imagined. But to see how the workplace has changed over the years, and because of that, technology has changed, and because of that, ergonomics have changed. And here we are in, I think, the most interesting chapter so far.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Vivienne, I have a question for you for the non-pianists out there.
Yes.
What was it that changed? What's that methodology that kind of helped you through that?
That's an excellent question. If I had to distill it down to its three most basic components, which absolutely transfers to ergonomics, it's learning, how your body is designed to be used. This is very common in athletics, right? So just a sample of like, even just like your hand, right? Your fingers have a natural curve to them. They're not designed like this. They're not designed like this, right? And so the idea is like, hey, my wrist doesn't have a natural break to it. It doesn't twist off to the side. And so that's true of your neck and your shoulders and your posture and your spine, et cetera, et cetera. So the first premise was, hey, let's honor the natural sort of alignment of your body. And if you work within that, you then step into principle number 2, which are joints are responsible for movement. So every joint has a range of motion. So, you know, my elbow can do this, my shoulder can reach up, and a finger can curl, it can straighten. So joints will fare best if you use them in a mid-range of motion. If you go to an extreme range of motion, so if you just kind of raise your hand over your head and do like repetitive arm reaches, like you might do in an aerobics class, very quickly you're going to feel that burn, right? And so in the right setting, that's a good thing to do. I'll just use hands as an example and wrists. These are tiny little joints, the smallest joints in your body. And they go out of the extreme range of motion very, very quickly, which means that your muscle is going to be working the hardest, the ligaments and tendons and nerves and whatnot. And so in the realm of, let's say, you know, just work and movement, the second thing is to honor the natural alignment of body. We're also going to try to use joints in a mid-range of motion. Then the third part of that is how do we recruit help from as many body parts to help the littlest body part stay in that natural alignment and that mid-range of motion. So I have to move my mouse from here to here, right? I can get there with my wrist twisting, but that's not so good for my wrist. So gee, let me recruit some help for my shoulder and my arm so that everything can move over together in one piece. Still got the job done. I just did it without taxing.
Using your bigger muscles. Yeah.
Yeah, let bigger body parts help littler body parts and learn how to sort of move in a coordinated way. That, I would say, if I had to distill it down to the 3, it's that.
Very interesting.
I've been smiling because I love listening to you talk about this. I just think it's great.
Thank you for letting me geek out because, you know, you asked me, I'm going to go there. So
well, but you draw us in. I mean, we've known each other a long time, and I love hearing you talk about it. I think it's really fascinating.
Well, it is fascinating. And I think the most impactful thing to me, like I was told it back in the piano days, practice more. That's why it's not being, that's why you're having trouble. When I started having, so as a temp work, you know, the waitress work, when I was hurting typing, the doctors would say, well, type less, quit your job. Like it was not really practical sustaining solutions. It was just sort of putting a Band-Aid. I was like, well, I need to earn money. Like, hello, you know. So when the answers started coming in with like, oh, do this instead of that. That was the light bulb moment. And that's when I got very passionate about like, I don't want anybody to go through this. I want to start teaching people.
The first I ever knew about ergonomics was when I was working at Netscape. And we had a full-time ergonomist in the facilities department there. I think her name was.
That's a luxury. That's beautiful.
Oh, yeah, it was awesome. And she would walk by my desk all the time and say, you really need to get an evaluation. And I would say, I'm fine. Because this is still the days of phones, you know, so I would sit at my desk with my arm, you know, my legs crossed like that. I would do this, you know. Right. And anyway, so after, you know, relentlessly attacking me, I gave up and said, okay, fine, I'll get an evaluation. And so I got a keyboard tray. I learned that I pound my keys on my keyboard. So my keyboard is generally elevated up toward me and down away from me. I got a headset, so I was more neutral when I was talking on the phone. A better mouse. You and I have the same mouse. Not here. I have the different one here. But, and just learned a lot about where the monitor is and how far, and the kind of chair that you sit in. And as you know, I have every ergonomic gizmo I can think of at my home.
You're like the poster child here.
I love it all. Yeah. And it completely changed my perspective, completely. And it became a little bit of an obsession. We talk about this all the time. I am an amateur ergonomist. I will walk down the hall and see somebody doing something and say, you really shouldn't do that. Here's what you should do.
Thank you.
And those little moments, I think, are fascinating. I told you this story the other day. I worked at a company where this woman was sitting right next to me, and she had all these problems, and she was very unhappy. And I said, well, let me see what you're doing. I adjusted her chair. I moved the monitor. I moved the keyboard and the mouse. And I said, try this. And in the afternoon, after about 4 hours, she stood up and looked right at me, and she said, oh my God, I feel so much better. Like those little things.
Well, yeah, and I always tell people, like, ergonomics is not rocket science, but it is super specific, and it's very case specific. So that's, I think, that's an interesting thing, which is, my daughter, when she had one of her earlier jobs in her career, she said, I don't think I can work here. And I said, why? She said, my back hurts so much that I don't think I can do this. And there was no help for her. And they actually lost a really great employee because there was a lack of response, probably just out of ignorance, not of anything like, bad. It was just, I don't think they knew what to do. Right.
Yeah.
So, and it's been really fascinating to just see the journey of ergonomics, at least office ergonomics. Ergonomics been around for, a long time. Even like in the 1700s, there's writings of this. Hippocrates would talk about, how the surgical instruments had to be just so, with an easy reach. So the concept has been around, right? Office ergonomics really took off with the proliferation of computers on our desktop. It used to be a finite pool of secretaries who were the only ones who typed, right? And then, Apple does what they do, and Microsoft comes along, and suddenly we all have desktop computers. And that's really where this started proliferating. And then we started having all these injuries. So I know when I started this, ergonomics was very much in the realm of workers' comp, and almost only workers' comp, right? And so you walk into a company of 5,000 people, everybody doing the same crazy thing of hunching and, whatever, distorting of their body. But they would take me to like Jim in the corner, who was really banged up. And, we would help Jim, who already was now, in medical care and maybe out on disability. And, and then you look around the 4,999 other people. You're like, well, what about them? They're like, oh, they're good, right? But then it shifted. And over time, it started becoming more of a draw to come work here. And Google, I think, was one of the first to have like configurable workstations. And then, other companies would look and say, well, hold on a minute. I want that talent to come here. They're like, well, why should I work for you? And over there, they gave me a really great chair and a sit-stand desk and a this and a that. That was before sit-stand desk. Those were still like $3,000 a pop. That was Dr. Note, Yeah. And then it started becoming, I wouldn't say a perk, but it was more of just like part of benefits that somebody gets. And then COVID happened. It all like blew up in a very interesting way. So I don't know, what's your experience? I mean, and Amy, with office design, like how integral, like how has that played out over the years?
Well, it's funny because I think that's when I met you, is more on the workers' comp type of scenarios where I felt like we were being reactive to scenarios as opposed to being proactive. And so it has evolved tremendously. I mean, at that point, we were really putting Band-Aids on situations. And that's kind of what intrigued me, because there was actually, you could see results from it. And so I really kind of fell in love with the ergonomic, process, I guess I would say, of watching you and your team do evaluations. And then I usually would provide the products, and then seeing the results of the people who, you walk in and they're like, oh my goodness, this desk, this chair, this mouse, keyboard, what have you, has really made a difference. And so I think that to me has been super intriguing. And I know, I think it's funny too, when you think pre-COVID, we look at how we used to put like a Vera desk or something on top of a static desk, right? And how much real estate of that desk it was taking up, and how clunky. And then you saw the graveyard of the Vera desks, or, whatever those pieces were, where you'd walk into an office and there would just be stacks and stacks. And you're like, why aren't you using it?
Interesting.
And
that's interesting.
They weren't using it because it took up too much. They needed a surface to write on, or, they didn't want to stand all the time. It couldn't get low enough for them to sit, what have you. Right. Now, when I look at solutions. I mean, in a post-COVID world, I mean, I think we're still trying to figure out those solutions, whether it be them working from home or working in the office. I would say height adjustable desk is non-negotiable at this point in time with all of our customers, right? So you definitely want a height adjustable desk. It accommodates all different shapes and sizes, and it just allows for that flexibility, which I think is great. Same with an ergonomic chair, makes a big difference. What I think is interesting, and Vivienne, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, is I feel like there's a workforce out there that had over a couple years sat on their couch or sat in their bed
or their bathtubs.
With their legs crisscrossed, and now they come into the office and they still want that environment. And I maybe it's my age, but I feel like, what's that going to do for you? You know, I know you're really comfortable right now. How long can you truly be that comfortable for? So I'm curious what you've seen in that, because we're still putting places in there so that those people can sit on a soft seating with a laptop table and do their job.
But I would add to that, Amy, I think there are people who know the ergonomic tools they want in the office, then went home and sat on the couch, crossing their legs, as you said, and it seems to have never occurred to them to buy the same things for home that they had at the office.
Right.
And now they're being injured. I don't know what that is. Like, how do you decide that that's okay? If you don't have the room, that's one thing. But if you have the room, why don't you have all the tools? I don't get it.
Well, okay. I am the cobbler's daughter myself, right? So when the pandemic happened, we had a desk in our bedroom, right? But now all of a sudden, instead of one of us working from home at a given time, there was 4 of us working from home at a given time, right? So you have to like become really flexible. And so I ended up at the dining room table for the most part, and on a dining chair. And multiple times when our company said, if you want a chair or a desk, I was like, oh, this is short term. I don't want that. I don't have a big enough house. It doesn't go with my decor.
Yep.
You know, to sit in the dining room.
Yep. Those are all.
I mean, that's why. So I sat there and I sat back for a while before I actually invested in all of that. And it only took me till my daughter moved away and went to college and I could take over her room that I invested in it, which was way too late.
Okay.
Thank God for daughters that go away to college.
Thank God. It opens up a lot of space.
Tell your daughters you said that, though.
And creates some peace and harmony in the house, too.
Yeah, Claire will call me on it. Yeah.
You clean it, it stays clean, but we love our daughters. So.
Oh, we do. It's great when they come to visit.
And our son. One of us has a son.
Okay, fair enough. Anyway, okay, let's unwrap this a little bit. So, Amy, you asked a really interesting question. And then, Mike, you sort of asked a different question, but they're both great. So we're seeing something really interesting. We're seeing, every time we have an online self-assessment platform, and then we also do virtual evals and then on-site evals. We've started resuming that. So we're starting to be back in the office. And there are stats that we have collected, literally tens of thousands of people around the world. And we can look at it over the years. We have never seen such high self-reported numbers of severe pain than we have in the last 2 years. This is after 20 years of doing this, right? So I really should do a white paper on this because it's very compelling. Mm-hmm. And we're also seeing a shift in where those complaints are coming from. So it's very interesting. When I first started in ergonomics, it was like carpal tunnel was the sort of injury of the time. And it was like the headlines and all the media. And it was very much my hand, my fingers, my wrist, my forearm, my elbow. Like that seemed to be the crux of it. And it has shifted. And I think a lot of that has to do with our laptop, right? Because everybody's hunched over. So a lot more lower back, a lot more neck and shoulders have dominated. And then new things came on the scene since COVID, which is eye strain, eye fatigue, because people are just on the screen that much more. And then ear fatigue. And we're like, ear fatigue? What? That's because that's a thing? And it's the headbuds and hearing loss too, by the way. Or they're using it for privacy, or I got to tune out my husband who's in the other room, or I don't want to hear him to hear everything, whatever, right? So that has been a new thing. At the same time, what you just said, Amy, we're finding to be true. Oh, but I love the casualness of working from home on the couch. And I feel kind of comfortable. Now, whether they feel well is another story, right? But
Yes.
I like that
Yes.
sort of like I could put my feet up. And so, and soft seating was already part of the office space, right? So to give people a variety of places to go, I'm in favor of that. But I'm never in a favor of like, I'm only going to be stuck on the couch, right? Working on my laptop and I'm sort of curled up like a ball. So I think part of it is that perception of comfort. I want that creature comforts of home if I'm going to be in the office, but a lack of awareness of, oh, what is this doing to my body? Mm-hmm. So I think education is just key. I'm putting that in the forefront of every other important thing that anybody working needs to know.
I absolutely agree with that. I think that whole concept of just letting people know what they don't see themselves, you know, hey, if you just move this and did this and change that, everything would be better. You know?
Yeah.
As often as I've tried to work elsewhere, like I'll go out and sit in the living room or I'll go out on the patio, like it just never works. I can't, the screen's too small, or I don't know. I just end up coming right back here and sitting at my desk. Sometimes I move over there, but generally this is where I am the most comfortable, truthfully.
Isn't that funny? And I start my morning for some reason on the dining room table, but I learned to have a cushion, a big industrial cushion I put on the dining room chair and a back. So it turned it kind of into a ergo. And for some reason, I just like to start, I do like my first hour there and then I come here. And then I alternate between sitting and standing. But to your point, like when you were saying, like why didn't people outfit themselves, right?
Yeah.
And 3 years later, we have a lot of people not outfitted. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. So Amy, you touched on, I thought it was temporary.
Yeah,
I don't have the room. Some companies have been very generous with stipends and a budget for that, and others like just didn't have the budget to suddenly buy, you know, thousands of people new stuff at their home. Or offices have reopened. Well, you know what? We've got a beautiful setup for you here. Come in and use it. So there's been a variety of things. But I think, again, it could be like just lack of awareness, lack of a program within an organization. And sometimes it is financial, and a lot of times it's space.
Well, I think it's also, you don't know, right? If you're fit and young and you know, you're doing it and you're not really feeling the pain, that it eventually catches up with you. It's like when they used to say sitting was the new smoking or whatever. It's like we didn't know because you weren't getting any feedback at that time, right?
Exactly.
And then you fast forwarded years later, and now you're like, oh yeah, that was probably.
You know,
not
Amy, you talked earlier about getting the height adjustable platform for the desk. I bought one from another manufacturer. I hated it. It was awful. And I need a desk. That's what I need. Mm-hmm. So I took it off my desk. It's now
in the graveyard.
Down the hall. Yeah, literally, that is what's going on back there. And I'm going to buy a desk. I was actually looking at them again this morning, trying to decide, I could do that this weekend maybe. But anyway, I need to get a high adjustable desk. Thank you. So I have a story about that I think Vivienne knows. I don't know if you know, Amy, but a friend of mine asked me to help her remodel a new house. And she has the most beautiful view from her dining room. She only has 2 bedrooms. It's not a big place, just this beautiful dining room with a view of mountains. It's gorgeous.
Oh, lovely.
And she said, I would love to be able to work in my dining room. Maybe we can figure out how to get a little desk in the corner over here. And then I can just sit there and work. And I said, that seems really dumb to me. Like, let's figure out if we can make you a height adjustable dining room table. And I am fearful that Kathy will listen to this and think I'm complaining. This took a long time. We spent a lot of time on the dimensions, what it would look like, but eventually we did it. And so it's her dining room table. It seats 6. But when she's just there day to day, she can use it as her desk, and she's got it all set up, and it's awesome. I was super proud of this.
That is
a lot of fun to do.
brilliant. And
Yeah.
did you had a sit stand base and then you customized the top? Is that how you did it?
That's correct.
Oh, brilliant.
Really
You
cool.
need to
And we,
start
you know, we picked
marketing that. That's amazing.
I know. We picked certain finishes, and we had something we really
That's so
wanted
smart.
from a particular manufacturer. It just wasn't going to work. It's really too
Okay.
bad because I loved that desk. But so we had to try to make the most of what we could get that was going to work. It was dimensions and other stuff was the challenge.
But that's really, and I think some of us don't realize the tops can often, depending on the make and model, be separate. And you can also purchase just a sit stand base.
Just a
right?
base.
Just a
And
base.
so you can take an existing desk. You know, some people have taken literally a door, like plop that on a thing. So, you know, you can mix and match these things. So that's very important.
Or a countertop that you already had existing, right? Or something if you wanted it to match the rest of the decor in your
But you know what really came to the forefront and still is at the forefront, which was kind of exciting as an ergonomist. And so this is where I got to geek out with my fellow ergonomists. And we're like, the whole do-it-yourself, the DIY approach, and like, what's in our closet that can help us? And so one of our head ergonomists, who's been with PBE forever, she came up with something brilliant for people working, let's say, at a fixed dining room table who didn't yet understand what can be done. Now they know, Mike, thank you. But hey, dining room table is too high. I'm shrugging my shoulders. My arms are up. I'm uncomfortable. But actually, my screen is placed pretty nice. It's in front of my eyes, but I'm typing too high. What do? I can't put a keyboard tray on my dining room table. It's my dining room table. So Lori was like, do you have a cutting board? Do you have a cookie sheet? Do you have like just household items? So they would place it on their lap and put their keyboard and mouse down here. So their upper arms are now hanging straight. Their elbows are like 90 degrees-ish. Arms are parallel to the floor. Like little things like that. Or like, hey, you're at home, a box will do wonders. Like stick it under your laptop, get that screen up. So I can't tell you how many people have said to us like, oh, I need a new chair. We're like, do you now? Let's see. And I'll tell you,
well, those of us who love chairs will say yes.
Well, yes, so a good chair is fantastic. But 9 times out of 10, and it is that high, like you don't need the new chair. You need to know how to sit in it a bit better, maybe adjust what you've already got. Cushions, pillows do wonders.
Well,
like,
most people don't know how to adjust their chair. That's the
true.
problem.
They do
Like,
not.
a lot of these chairs have all these amazing capabilities.
You need a PhD, I know.
They don't, or they just don't fidget with it enough. They figure out they can do stand, the height. And that's about it. They don't move the seat pan or the back or the lumbar.
And you can adjust it in or out and make a huge difference. But I was going to just say that 9 times out of 10 is the line of vision. And people don't realize that in ergo, your eyes are king. So your head and neck will follow whatever you're looking at. You're looking down, head is bent. You look up, it's extending. You're off to the side, whatever. And your screen is going to dictate that. So I can't tell you how many times we're like, either get a bigger monitor, get dual monitor, or just get a laptop, right? Something. So books became really fantastic. So that was kind of cool because then we could kind of work with people who didn't have the luxury of a stipend, or I can't charge it back to the company, or whatever the limitations were. We're like, all right, but you already have a pillow, right?
But a lot of these little things I think are not terribly expensive. A headset doesn't have to be expensive.
Yes. True.
Something to put your feet on, a footrest doesn't have, some of these things
even
can
a sit-stand
be
table now. They
can be
used to be $3,000 to
down
$5,000 a pop. And the first company I walked into in San Francisco that had this as their norm, I was like, wow, like what?
Yeah.
It was so unusual. And then it was doctor's note only because they were expensive. But then they started to come down. And then those desk mounts that you're talking about started hitting the market. And that was a game changer because suddenly it was 500, 600, not 3,000. And then competition started. And then sit-stand desks. But over the pandemic, now you go on Amazon and you have really good things for like $200, $300.
I was going to say, you can get a desk for $199.
Yeah, that was not the case 4 years ago.
I'm going to ignore that comment.
Not a
commercial grade.
There are levels of quality. I would agree.
Absolutely. And look, and something's different in your home than it has to be to stand up in an office, right?
Well, that I would have said that in the past, but who would have thought we'd spend possibly 3 days people are spending in their home. They're spending more time in their home office than they are in their respectable offices. So, so it depends on how much time you're really going to be doing it.
That is true.
And I also
And I
think with that is I look at myself. I used to spend 80% of my time in the car in face-to-face meetings with people and not sitting at a computer and not on Zoom. And that's totally changed. It's flip-flop. So that's a big change for a lot of us too, is that we didn't used to have this much screen time. Like my vision has totally gone in the last few years and I do blame it on age, but I also blame it on this. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute.
We're all wearing glasses.
You just reminded me, I'm wearing the wrong glasses. Oh my God.
Oh.
Do we look better this way?
Oh, there you are. Okay. Computer glasses. Can we talk about that for a second?
Sure.
Can we talk about blue light on a geek out roll here? Computer glasses, I didn't know existed. So these are progressives. So just a word of note to everybody out there.
Yeah.
If you
Do you wear
wear
progressives, Amy?
No, mine are strictly computer.
Got it. So if you wear progressive or bifocals, the sort of reading part is on the bottom of the glasses. So, rule of thumb is, hey, screen should be about an arm's distance, unless you're on a monster screen like I have, which is 30 something inches. You're going to want to be greater than an arm's distance. And then you're kind of looking, so the way I put it, people who say you have to look at the top third of the monitor. Place your monitor and the windows on your screen so that your eyes look ahead. That's the easiest way I could put it.
Neutral. Yeah.
Neutral. And that you're not like looking down or up, like you're just facing forward. Right. And if your screen, you're looking forward and you're looking at the top of the screen, guess what? You got to raise it. Right. Raise it. Right. Anyway, so the exception of that is if you are wearing bifocals or progressives, then you're going to want to have your screen low so that you can easily keep your head in that position. Just look out the bottom of your glasses. But what most of us do is we put these on and then we tilt our chin up and we're looking out the bottom and then you get headaches. So computer glasses are designed to negotiate the distance between you and the screen, you and the keyboard, you and your notebooks. And you literally measure these distances, bring them to your eye provider, and they will create what's called computer glasses. Then they could even put blue light filters in them. So I have to say, for vanity reasons, I put these on for this call, this episode, whatever. But the computer glasses make a huge difference. Like I don't have headaches at the end of the day.
Or tired eyes, right? Like really tired. I would have red bloodshot, tired eyes at the end of the day.
And the other thing is, sorry, go ahead.
I just got these, and it's a little bit larger a frame.
Yeah.
Which I think is helping a little bit. But this was the reason I was bringing it up is this is the first time I've ever been offered computer glasses.
Oh,
He
good.
specifically said you could do that.
Excellent.
And I said, that's great. Thank you. And I decided I don't spend as much time on data on a computer. And so it seemed like what I should do is go with a larger frame so I get more of my progressive in the on the screen. And that's how I went with it.
And they look good too.
They do. They fit your face very nicely.
So there you go. It's a win-win. Right. But
glasses are expensive.
They're very expensive. Oh my God. No, really.
Killing me.
Yeah. And my glasses person is the best sales lady in the world. I know exactly. And you need 2 pairs because to match your outfits. And you need the computer glasses. And of course, you're going to get the sunglasses, right? And the next thing I know, I'm like coming out with of glasses. My husband's like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, she told me to do it. But
taking out a second mortgage for your glasses.
Exactly. But I think this is an overlooked part of the ergonomics. Lighting is a big deal, but and then the actual blue light. So every screen emits blue light. Your TV, your phone, your computer screen, etc. And they're finding eye problems that historically were for more a senior population starting to show up in younger people, number one. And blue light, you ever like relax with your phone at night and then you get sleepy and you turn off your phone and all of a sudden you're awake? Mm-hmm. So it also messes with your melatonin production. So late night, like you want those filters, those night filters on. You can get filters for your screen, but they can also be built into your glasses. And then if you don't need prescription glasses, there's actually blue light glasses that
glasses.
pay $15 on Amazon, they look groovy. But that makes a big difference too.
Mhm.
If you could pick one thing that most people should change, if there's only one thing that might make them more comfortable, could you choose, and what would it be?
Oh no. I think the number one posture destroyer, which then affects everything else, is a screen that's too low.
Oh,
It
okay.
automatically makes you hunch. If I can sneak in a second one to that first one, one of the biggest causes of low screens is a laptop on a desk. Go into any Starbucks and you're going to see just a row of people like banana spined. And they don't just hunch their head forward and round their back, they also extend their arms forward. Because to see a lower screen, people just kind of intuitively push it away because you'll see more of the screen if it's further away. So now your keyboard's too far, your screen is too low, and your posture, you're done. So if I had to change one thing, I probably would say get that external keyboard mouse, get that screen up, and just give yourself a fighting chance. And then,
yes,
and then I think we would build from there.
That's one thing that I want to work on in my own company when we create better hoteling space. I walked by a guy the other day who was just plugging away on his laptop, as you said, and I said to him, you could sit at that workstation, there's a monitor and a keyboard and a mouse. And it hadn't really occurred to him that he could do that. So it's the reminder that
like,
those tools
why haven't people set themselves up? Again, I think it's just we just need to keep educating. You know?
Yeah.
Why do people
Well, I think it's just easy. I'm just going to go, it's like when you watch someone come in and sit down at their desk and they'll pull a leg up under, themselves and sort of plop down and they're sort of doing this and, take 2 seconds to position, just think about how you want to work. For that
it's like getting in your car. I always tell people that, like, you adjust the mirror, you put your seatbelt on, you do the side mirror, you don't turn that engine key on until you've done these 3 or 4, 5 things. Same thing with Ergo. Like, hey, just take stock and then go. So
I feel like we could do another hour and a half on this subject, but we should probably wrap up for today.
I agree.
This was great.
All right.
Loved it.
So many great takeaways. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome,
this was great. Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, looking forward to the next one. And you guys are awesome.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.